can help you. Okay, so, but please, I need your attention. Okay? You know my name, so the name of the expert is Bela Kramer. The short professional background of the expert, I started in '64 in Hotel Gellért in Hungary. Spent more than 40 years in the industry. Write down what is important only, because you will have a copy of the CD. We are doing it now here. Okay? What you feel important, and you can write it down, but do not write down everything. Okay? So, over 40 years in the industry, started as a bellboy in the Hotel Gellért and finished in the Hotel Sofitel as a manager on duty or executive assistant manager. No position. Okay, stop the music, please. What I feel important to tell about myself, that I have been changed completely after being on Hayman Island, working training staff there, the best resort of Australia, the third one among the leading hotels of the world in '87. Okay? Part of the Ritz and Elsa. Yes, that's exactly. That's still the best resort of Australia, and now in 2005, the 17th off the top of the list of the leading hotels of the world. So still a very good quality hotel there. Only after over about 30 years I realized that what we are doing in the hotel business in Hungary is a monkey business. Only then. So it takes time, it takes the possibility to be able to compare. Unless you are working abroad, you cannot compare, believe me. That's extremely important. So I changed my way of thinking about the hotel business here. In the Hungarian state-owned hotel business I'm talking about as a monkey business, under non-market economic circumstances. That's very important. So under non-market economic circumstances and state-owned hotel business, which exists nowhere in the civilized world. Okay? Then I started to teach here in the college in '95 in the English teaching. I have been teaching at the British Hungarian Training and Educational Center, British Hungarian Training and Educational Center, which has an international accreditation from England, from Britain as well. And I have been invited twice by the Manchester Metropolitan University to study the British higher educational system, dissertation evaluation, and to have lessons, to give lessons as well. So that's probably in short what I can tell about myself. Okay, let's go to the question 3. What do I know and how do I feel about the Hungarian hotel privatization? Okay, so you know my feelings, but trying to summarize a little bit. I think about the Hungarian hotel privatization that it had been absolutely necessary. 1. No state-owned hotel and catering existed in the civilized democratic world. In Russia, in Mongolia, in Hungary, and I can mention a couple of others, in the Soviet bloc, they were only state-owned industries, as you know very well. Okay? So state, I make a statement, is not a good owner. That's one thing. I wouldn't say that all state-owned property is not functioning well. I wouldn't go that far, because in Western countries, in the European Union, there are state-owned industries as well, but no hotels, no cafes, no nightclub, no bars, no restaurants. It is normally owned by individual entrepreneurs, and not by the state. So what happened when we privatized the Hungarian hotel and catering industry? We were going back to normal stage of the industry. Normal state, that I call a normalization. Okay? The total normalization would have been, in my point of view, if we are giving it back to the people, to the individuals owning these hotels and restaurants before the war. That would have been the right thing, in my opinion. But we were unable, different reasons, we were unable to do that. Because don't forget that most of these properties, land, were confiscated from the owners after the war and before as well, without right. Okay, so nowhere, I'm saying it again, in the civilized democratic world, industry, land, home, flat, houses were taken away by force, on the regulation, on the new regulation of the government, without a proper process. Okay? Yeah, please. Have you everybody's attention. So it was necessary, it was a normalization of the industry, one thing. The other thing which is very important to know, that privatization, it was necessary as well, additional, plus that the country, Hungary, was highly in debt, ladies and gentlemen. We had $22 billion debt, Hungary. $22 billion debt at that time. Okay? Yes, you wanted to say something? You wanted to say something over? No. 22 billion debts at that time. Okay? Per capita, the debt, even in Poland and in many other countries, was lower than that. So the country needed very much foreign currency to pay back the debt. Obviously that was a very good revenue for the state, so we could pay back some of the debt as well. That's the second thing I wanted to mention. The third thing why I'm very much for the privatization, what happened in Hungary as well, that we needed badly foreign expertise as well. Not only the theory, but in fact we needed the different culture of the big companies investing in Hungary. On our field, Marriott, Intercontinental, Kempinski, later on Four Seasons, Sofitel, and many others. They brought in to our country a corporate culture never existed here before. They stopped, ladies and gentlemen, which has a very unfortunate tradition in Hungary, stealing and cheating in the industry. And I believe strongly that it is very important. No modern, democratic, civilized country can base an industry like hotel and catering industry on cheating and stealing. And that was the industry about here in Hungary. Okay, so that was another thing. Foreign expertise, foreign money coming in and normalizing the state of the industry. Any other question? How I feel about the hotel privatization? Please do ask. So it was obviously changing the face of the Hungarian hotel industry. These large international companies coming in for the first time. As you might know, before the privatization, before the first free Hungarian election, state ownership regarding hotels and restaurants was not possible in Hungary. Not state or private ownership, foreign ownership. Only after the first free election in Hungary became possible for foreigners to invest and own and manage a hotel. Earlier we had only franchise, which is a different thing. Franchise was never kept strictly in Hungary. Intercontinental, I have been working there from 69 to 81, a big hotel, it was only a franchise. Many people still now, up till now, believe that Intercontinental was an American hotel. No, ladies and gentlemen. Intercontinental was the same state-owned monkey business as any other state-owned hotel at that time, before the privatization. And I will show you with facts how they changed the operation after Marriott winning the tender. Okay? Hilton, again, many people believe that Hilton up on the hill, it was an American or international property. No, ladies and gentlemen. It was 100% Hungarian state property as well as Duna Intercontinental. And the same thing about the Forum, which is now called the Intercontinental Hotel. Okay? So, what they did with the privatization, what happened after that? So only after the privatization, after selling these properties to management companies and hotel companies in the industry, was possible that these people were changing the operation of these hotels. The example I wanted to bring in immediately, which I already told you during the lectures, that in 93 they bought Marriott the Intercontinental, the previous Intercontinental, and during the first year when they had a $20 million investment immediately in the building, because it has not been renovated since 69, ladies and gentlemen, owned by the state and mismanaged by a state-owned company, not managed, mismanaged by a state-owned company. You know, excuse me, why are you laughing? It's disturbing me. If you have a question, please ask. No, you can laugh, but then come out. I like if you disagree. I don't mind that. You know, that's the part of the conversation. Okay. So, since 69, from 69 till 93, till the Marriott coming in, Intercontinental was not renovated by the state-owned company. From 76 Hilton opening up on the hill till 96, till the privatization, Hilton was not renovated. These and other state-owned properties were totally run down. The quality was absolutely missing. The physical quality as well, not only from the human side, but the physical quality as well. And I remind everybody that in every international place, a renovation, a total renovation, refurbishment should take place in every 7 or 8 years. Okay? So that's by the international standard. Intercontinental and Hilton many times initiated during the state ownership the need of renovation. They were telling the Hungarian authorities, practically these state-owned companies, Hungar Hotels, later on the other one, Danubius, to renovate, because we will even withhold the usage of the name. After every year they were sending their quality controllers, mystery quality controllers, to Intercontinental and Heathrow. There were scandals. Many people being fired from these places because they were cheating. And the foreigner, the controller, discovered some, very few, but they always discovered some of the cheating, and they were threatening to withhold the name. So many guest complaints we had, not written to the local management, because the local hotel lost the trust of the customers, of the foreigners. They were writing already to the European or the American management. You know, these complaints were misacted, not taken care of, and that was the third reason they were threatening the Hungarian companies to withhold the name. So all this, ladies and gentlemen, from one year to the other, after the privatization changed. So the first thing, financial backup, what I said. Marriott in the first year, while refurbishing, rebuilding the whole of the previous Intercontinental was still going on. So noise, dust, everywhere, disturbance, still doubled the profit. And this is a fact which can be easily checked. That means that somehow half of the profit, because the house is not bigger now. They have less employees as well, obviously. I will get to the employees question later on. But to double the profit when works are going on, in the first year, a new brand name, rebranding was still going on. That's an extreme achievement. And it was only possible that somehow, I wouldn't say everything was stealing, but somehow the building, the Intercontinental, was mismanaged, because otherwise it is impossible to double the profit. When you have about the same number of visitors, room prices are going down because you have people working in the building, and to double the profit in the same time, this is internationally impossible. Here, that's what happened. That's what happened. After the privatization, immediately they were investing Marriott in the Intercontinental. Danubius found the money, not totally refurbished, but to invest in the Hilton up on the hill, to do the necessary renovations, ignored for more than 20 years before. So believe me, that's an extremely good quality improvement on the physical side of the building as well, modernizing equipment, everything. So that was coming and going on with the privatization as well. What other perception? They stopped the previous Hungarian custom, that what we had, in my consideration again, strictly my opinion, that we had a contra-selection going on according to the leaders of the industry. What happened? You have to have a brief history about that. First, let's go back to after the war. You know that very well, that before the war and after the war, escaped all experts, owners. They were stripped from their property. Some of them escaped, some of them being killed by the Hungarians and by the Germans, and some of them after the war were forced to labor camp, like Gundel. I mentioned one example, but I can mention Mr. Biro, the former general manager of the Hilton as well. The short story, he was studying in Lausanne in Switzerland, and he was coming back, made a big mistake to come back, to help to rebuild the hotel and catering industry in Hungary. Immediately after that, he was jailed by the Hungarian authorities, by the Rákosi regime, as a foreign spy. Immediately, and these are all true stories, you can check them. I was sending around with email the report with Mr. Biro about that. I hope you have it, because those are interesting expressions. So, the leaders of the industry, ladies and gentlemen, earlier had nothing to do with the industry. That was a tremendous problem. Even better, much bigger than the physical destruction of the buildings. So we eliminated the leaders, the operational leaders of the industry deliberately in Hungary, the government at that time. So we started from, not from ground zero, but even from below. Let's go later on. We never had experts, ladies and gentlemen, in the meaning of the industry in international meaning. And I explain you why. Because after 56, when the AVH, the Hungarian State Security, AVH, I hope you know what that means. AVH was dissolving. What happened? Some of these secret agents went to the Hungarian police, obviously not retired, and many of them went to the Hungarian hotel and catering industry. So practically the state security was running in a way the whole Hungarian hotel industry, the accommodation industry. Every big hotel had these people everywhere. Some of them were covered agents, so pretending to work there, and some of them were openly working for the different Hungarian secret agencies. That's what I call a contra-selection. So we never had what has happened in Western countries, in Western Europe, even before, not only now, that the best people, the knowledgeable people, the better educated ones going ahead, which is going to happen to you already. And that's an extreme difference. But these people were selected on the basis they had high-ranking officers, friends, connections with the secret services. They had high-ranking connections, friends with the party, with the only party existed at that time. So connections, connections, and connections. It had nothing to do, I can tell you with this is obviously again my opinion, but after 40 years experience in industry, so the selection of the leaders in the hotel industry had absolutely nothing to do with the skills, with capabilities, with production, only with connection. You know. Anybody? Mr. Hargitai? You had a good time? No. Okay. So that stopped. That stopped immediately. And for many people, I know that, it was a disaster. Imagine that you are managing a hotel, a big hotel, for 10 and 20 years. And you obviously believe that you are the best on the field. There's certainly other companies coming in, and they are other owners, and they are going to tell you what to do. It's personally a shock, and I do understand that. Okay? But when they saw that the profit is being doubled by this new company, this should have been a convincing them that they know something what we didn't before. Simply because we were not working under pressure, we had no market conditions, no real competition existed because everything was state-owned. And after the privatization, that is stopped. We always have to approach from the point of view of the guest. People making in Hungary the mistake that approaching these things from the point of view of the service provider. It is wrong. We have to approach it in this industry from the point of view of the guest. What has been changed from the point of view of the guest? Quality was dramatically improved. Immediately they had an executive and middle management in a very short time understanding them at all. Not only the language was not present properly there, because this is still missing from the country, the second or the third language, unfortunately. But the culture was missing, the willingness was missing to understand the foreigner. Okay? As long as you know that you have the necessary connection to the party, to the secret services, you are not afraid of the guest, put it that way, because you can do whatever you might, whatever you will. Those people are holding you in the position. Okay? In a Western country, in the same time, if you have a guest complaint that you are being rude once, you are fired. Okay? If you are not producing the financial results, you are fired. You have to look for another place. So that's what I call a selection. That is selection. What we have, that was a counter-selection. Okay. Question, compare ownership. Shortly after the privatization, we started to have a public and private property ownership, which is natural in Western states, instead of the state ownership or ownership by state-owned companies, management by state-owned companies. So that was the change about the ownership. Organizational changes were several. According to these new companies buying these hotels, okay, then spending money on refurbishment, renovation, upgrading, updating these properties, they were bringing in, as I said, a new corporate culture, and they were changing the organization accordingly. Okay? Bringing their own people for the first place to train the local staff, to train the Hungarians. Some important thing again, based on facts, they were realizing that middle age or older people are not reliable in the industry in Hungary. They were realizing that, okay? Because stealing and the culture of stealing or cheating, to stop that, that cannot be achieved with the help of training. Unfortunately, you have to change these people. This is my opinion. Yes. Okay. So this is not something you can expect to do that or achieve that with the help of the training. Okay. To be honest, that's not a question of training. Okay, so what happened? Organizational changes. They were bringing down, I will bring you first of all the example of Marriott. They were bringing down 12 or even more than the trainers, plus an executive management, about 12 people again. And they said to the Hungarians, previously having that position, front office manager or food and beverage manager, you can stay here. So was nobody fired immediately. I wanted to make that absolutely clear. You can stay here. We give you 2 years to prove your possibilities, attitudes, knowledge. So you have 2 years. After that, they said, we will withdraw the foreigners, which is much more expensive for the company, obviously, and then you will have a place. Or you can have a transfer to other countries, which was never possible, ladies and gentlemen, before. Again, it's your turn, luckily. Okay? So some of them stayed. Some of them immediately said that, no, I have been the first on my field. I'm not going to stay here as a second, and left the company. So I make a statement again. Nobody had been fired except the general manager immediately. Even with the general manager, they said, you can stay here as a consultant. Each time we need you, we will ask you to come in and consult with us. Obviously, when you change the business, when the ownership is changing, it brings always, all over the world, management changes as well. Painful for the people involved, I do understand that, but it is absolutely necessary. If you buy a shop, for example, you are not going to keep the same old stuff. You are bringing in your trustees as well. Your friends, your trustees, because you would like to make sure that nobody is working against you, not in the morning, not in the evening, in different shifts. So that's exactly what happened. They were bringing in people, proving their reliability to these new companies all over the world, having a huge expertise in different countries, different continents as well, learning, and that was new in Hungary as well, how to work with people from different countries, from different cultures. Because this is something was missing again from the Hungarian hotel industry. And let me stop here for a point. I mentioned that the most important is that earlier we had no market economy, and now we are having a market economy, or building a market economy rather. Okay, so that was the first change. Earlier we had no real competition, now we have real competition in the market. This is connected with the free market. Earlier, because we had no real competition and no investment, the demand for hotel rooms was much bigger than the number of hotel rooms we could offer. And that makes an extreme difference. Now, client, a guest, always approach from the guest point of view, can select from different hotels, different qualities and different prices. Okay, it was not possible before. And always when you have this situation that the demand is much higher on the field than the offer, then you have a black market. And that's what happened in Hungary under the non-market economy circumstances. We had a huge black market everywhere, ladies and gentlemen, in the country. But we are concentrating now on the hotel issue. How it worked. I remember my example, the clients were coming in, not only a real shortage we had, according rooms and other things, What shortage, ladies and gentlemen, was deliberately created by staff as well. Let me say that again. So we had a huge real shortage in the country. Everything was missing. Hotel rooms, not we have ever had enough in certain periods, but staff deliberately creating shortages on every field in other service-related industries as well. How they were doing that? Easy. Clients coming in, asking for a room being denied. No, we have nothing available. Okay, like Mike in the example, you remember that? Nothing available. That couple sitting in the lobby already offered $100 to find the room. It was impossible. Direct message, send it to the client, okay? So unless you are showing me up more than $100, obviously, there is a competition, competing for the room, okay? So that was an illegal revenue generated which made the industry everywhere in the country attractive. Let me just point that absolutely clearly. The attractiveness of the industry in Western countries is not that. Tip is existing everywhere. But this blackmailing has nothing to do with the tip. So those are two different things. Now when you are working for a big hotel, you will have tip, obviously. In different countries, the habits, the customs are different. But in Hungary, when the guest is satisfied, giving a tip in the restaurant as well, and in the hotel as well. But no blackmailing, no zsarolás, put it that way. Okay, so those are two different things. We have to clearly and sharply distinguish between them. What we had as an illegal income in Hungary, in the state-owned Hungary, in the Hungarian hotel industry, it was cheating, stealing, and blackmailing, which was made impossible in these new properties owned and managed by Western hotels. And I say this is good. Now, when you are going to work in the United States, you will see that tipping is there 15% obligatory. So you can earn in a honest, fair way, in a correct way, nice amount of money in many countries. But not with cheating or stealing, which is not only forbidden, but once they find it out, you will be fired immediately. Okay? I'm not saying that cheating and stealing was officially allowed in Hungary, because that's not true. It's not allowed officially now, and people are still cheating and stealing. And it was not allowed then officially, but I would say it was widely known and tolerated in the industry instead of that. So just to distinguish again properly. So that culture, unfortunately, very unfortunately for our visitors, is still present in the country. I must say that, in the industry. Okay, but when you ask your parents about the outdoor car repairs and car services and other experiences they have in the Hungarian service industry, I'm sure that they will reveal for their boys or for their daughters some of these beauties, little beauties, experienced in the Hungarian service industry. Okay. Let's try to go to the fourth question. Who are the players on the stage? We had, as a first big privatization, the Marriott coming in, buying a property, the former Intercontinental, for $55 million. And then we had, Kempinski was started as a private ownership, so it was nothing on that space, on that location before, no hotel at least, in 92. That was a big investment, I don't know the exact amount. Intercontinental bought the previous forum, which is now the Intercontinental, in 96 from the state property agency or from the state. They paid $76 million for the building of forum, and there were some others as well, but major investors as others For example, private investors were coming in and buying up the shares of the Danubius, buying the majority of the shares. That's how Danubius being privatized. Pannonia, that's a different thing. Pannonia was bought by Holpa, an investment company, with Accor behind, Holpa. Ez, ahogy magyarul mondom, Holpa, csak a nagybetűvel. An investment company, but for you it's important that Accor, the biggest hotel chain in Europe, is behind it. So Accor has by now 98% of the shares of Pannonia. Okay? Hungarian Hotels, which formerly was the best quality and the biggest Hungarian hotel company, owning the best hotels in a way, Danubius bought Hungarian Hotels, or the rest, the remains of the Hungarian Hotels later on during 96 as well. Okay, although they were, I believe, maintaining the brand name Hungarian Hotels, but it is owned by Danubius. So other big players are the individual hotels. As you know, we had an investment just recently, Four Seasons, over $100 million. They were investing into the building and building a new hotel, the Four Seasons, a very expensive exercise. And when we had the Hilton in the West End, which is again giving you a good example how and why, ladies, careful listen, why it's different, the Western management. That was the first place where we have a lady as a general manager. Interestingly, and this is telling us a lot about the local culture, that earlier, ladies were able to do in Hungary, not in Western Europe, in Hungary only human resources, maybe accounting, maybe a little bit housekeeping or cleaning, especially cleaning, So they were somehow interestingly unable to achieve a good high-level position, which is a lovely information again about the different cultures. So now, with these companies, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So if you are good, you have the same opportunities with these international companies. I must say that absolutely clearly. I would even say that in Britain, I experienced that more ladies are in middle and top management position than gentlemen. Okay, organization, operation was different because really, not by words, but in the good meaning of the good sense, the guest became the first one. So from the privatization slowly on, guest complaints were taken much more seriously. The whole culture, that if we have a wrong culture, we throw it simply away, we don't know about that. It wouldn't even reach the general manager. They stopped that. They realized the different tricks everywhere in the hotel operation, including not only front of the house operations, but back of the house operations as well. And they slowly, as they have been discovered, stopped that. Give you a good example, for example, just a recent example, ladies and gentlemen, 1 or 2 years ago, you remember that the hotel called Hyatt, where I have been working earlier, it was a franchise, owned by the Hungarian state-owned company, a franchise. Okay? So now Sofitel, which is a brand, the best brand of Accor, bought the place. One of the first measures I would like to introduce to you to see the different way of thinking. Prostitutes were coming into the nightclub, always selling themselves, trying at least. Interestingly, Sofitel coming in, realizing that, stopped that immediately. How could it come? What do you think? What makes this difference? I need to think about it. I would love to listen to some of your questions to give you the proper answer. Interestingly, they stopped immediately the prostitutes. How? Without the police. That's interesting, isn't it? Think about it. Why and how is it possible? Just to mention one. Okay, so players on the chain, we are talking about profitability. I mentioned the profitability. Since the privatization, every previously state-owned hotel profitability, rentability, effectiveness dramatically has grown. You might say that only because they reduced the unnecessary number. I put that an emphasis on that. Unnecessary staff members. This is true as well. Because when you are after profits, when you are not doing a monkey business, but trying to do a real business in Western style, then you don't employ more people than necessary, which was the case before. Before, in the non-market economy, it was a political decision, ladies and gentlemen, to have full employment in the country. It was a state or party priority, put it that way. It sounds nice, but we all, people living citizens in the country, pay the high price for that. I must say that, because every second worker in a hotel had nothing to do, and in other industries, services and other industries as well. So what we called, we had an in-house, házon belüli munkanélküliség, an in-house, and unnecessary duplications of job. Give you a precise data figure again. These hotels like Intercontinental started in 69 with 720 workers, and now they have 280. The same building, ladies and gentlemen, and they improved the quality. They doubled the profitability with the same number of clients, doubled the profitability and improved dramatically, I'm saying it again, the quality for the guest satisfaction. So that's the difference. To argue, that makes the difference. Okay, efficiency as well. Human resources policy, first of all, we used to say that if the head of the fish is smelly, then the whole fish smells. It's a Hungarian saying, isn't it? So this is about human resources policy. It was, ladies and gentlemen, to get in a good hotel a decent job without the necessary connection in Hungary. That's not the case in the Western countries or in the United States. You earn these positions with your hard work, with your competitiveness, with your knowledge, with your will, with your effort. You earn these places. And believe me, and this is a difference, then all of you who would like to do that, who has the will, can be anything, Prime Minister. So possibilities are wide and open for the new generation. But we never had that. To get a position, a bellboy position even, in 64, because I'm always honest with you, my father had to know the assistant general manager in 64 in Hotel Galliard to get me there as a bellboy, a shoe-shine boy, because that was a good amount of honest tip still. Okay, so I admit that, but that was the case everywhere. Okay, to get a person into a higher position, it was impossible in Hungary, in the hotel industry, without the necessary party secret services or other high-ranking connection. And this is wrong. Okay? So players on the change, how they changed in the last decade. Accor, first they started to buy over 51% of the shares. Now they have in Pannonia 98% of the share. Marriott bought immediately the whole building, but they have two operations. One is taking care of real estate, and the other one is taking care of the managing the hotels. Danubius, as a private company, did exactly the same. So they were splitting the company to one part which is taking care of the real estate, and the other part which is taking care of the hotel and restaurant operation. Although Danubius' case is special. Danubius' case is special because that's the only one, ladies and gentlemen, who where the old management before the privatization remained in place. So this is an interesting case. Okay? So Marriott is managing, all the executive managers started as foreigners. Some of them are Hungarians by now already. Kempinski, the executive management, 7 people about, all the executives are foreigners. They are changing them, doing a rotation. This is again, which never happened in Hungary, in the state-owned hotel industry. Important to see again together the difference. When you leave a general manager for 10, 20 years in the same position, okay, then in Western countries they realize that this is not a good policy. That's why they have everywhere, in Marriott, in Intercontinental, and Sheraton, everywhere in the West, a rotation of the leaders. So this is how you are going on ranks, building your career path, okay, being a front office manager. Somewhere in 2 years you move to another country, to another hotel, applying for a job as a rooms division manager, okay, spend 2 years there, again applying for a job of the general manager. So in 6, 8 years in these companies, with these big international companies, now you can be a general manager of a big hotel. All the doors are open. Depends only on you, on your effort and willingness. Okay? That was not the case, as I said before, and that's an extreme difference as well. Just to point out another one. So people here remained, started as a teenager and retired as a bellboy after 40 years. Okay? And that was a career. Maybe head waiter. Okay, new hotels, you can check the new hotel openings everywhere on the internet now. Renovations were taking place starting after the privatization for the first time, major updates. Investors and management companies. But we are practically not interested who is, give you the example, who is behind the Kempinski line. You remember when I said that majority of the public believes that Kempinski is a German company owned by the Lufthansa, okay? And as I revealed to you, there are banks from Thailand behind the Kempinski now. It has been owned by Lufthansa as a case of interest. Or Marriott, who is owning the whole money, the whole real estate, the whole operation? The, how do you call that? The church in Utah. Mormon church, owning the whole Marriott chain. Yes, this is an interesting thing, but we are, as employees, not interested who has the money. We are interested who and how is managing the company, because that's interesting. Not who the owners who are, in majority of the cases, are shareholders. Remember what I always said, you as future management are responsible through the general manager, through the director of boards, you are responsible to the owners. Your duty, your job is to generate revenue. In the meantime, obviously, you can do that at only achieving total guest satisfaction. That's the way how we achieve. But finally, we are money-making machines, as I said earlier. Okay? So business is being taken seriously. Okay? And these companies are doing, as I showed you, that was the same thing in Hilton. They reduced the number of staff, unnecessary number of people, Intercontinental, Hilton, Hyatt, Sofitel, all that's the case as well. Sofitel has about 260 people, and they had around 700 in 82 when they started. Around 700, maybe a little bit less. So 1/3 of the people doing a much better work. That's an interesting information again. Okay. Organizational changes. Do you have any question regarding what? New positions were created, obviously, where there was a need. And some positions, which they felt important before, they were cancelled. How do the new owners representing themselves locally? I would say on the spot, because these are management agreements. Management companies, they are representing themselves with executive management only. For the first time after the privatization, it was possible for Hungarians as well to go and travel abroad. and workable. They call it a transfer. The possibilities are there at the personal entrance, at the personal cafeteria or personal restaurant, as well openings all over the world. And you can apply for any position you want to. You know, I had some friends going to Nepal and other very interesting countries in a way, getting a transfer from the Intercontinental after the privatization, obviously, from the Marriott and from other companies as well. Certainly, there is usually a time limit, so you have to be there for 2 years. Make sure that they learn about your reliability and abilities as well. So that's how they represented themselves under the management agreement, obviously with their own management. Proved to be trustworthy over the years, decision makers and executive management. If you have any questions, I'm happy to stop and answer the question. Okay? Please do ask. How the changes affecting the local hotel industry? Yes? Anybody? How changes affecting the local hotel industry? For people being fired because they were not good for the position, obviously, it had a negative effect. That's true on the previous leaders of the industry. Not capable, not flexible enough to adapt for the new changing time. For the staff, it was unpleasant in a way, I must tell you exactly, because remember that more than 50% of the staff was not needed. Obviously, we had earlier no official. Ladies and gentlemen, may I ask please to stop the private conversation? Thank you very much. If you are not interested, I'm sorry, but then you can leave the room. There's no must here. Freiwillig. So, obviously, if you have to get rid of, put it that way, get rid of more than 50% of the staff, it's for them finding themselves unnecessary from one year to the other. Okay, it is a hard time. And you know that very well, that unemployment rate at the early 90s went up dramatically in Hungary because of that. Because companies not producing profit, they were dissolving, went bankrupt. And from the companies restructured, like in the hotel industry, these new hotels, or renamed, rebranded hotels, the former number of staff was absolutely unnecessary. I told you why. So slowly they were trying to get work somewhere else, but it was difficult because the same thing happened all over the country. So for the employees finding themselves jobless, obviously it was a very hard time. So we must talk about that honestly as well. But for the people able to accept the changes, flexible enough to adapt to the changes, I think it was better. Circumstances were getting clear, getting transparent, we call it, no secrets around the operation, no hidden stories behind the screen and so on. So it was getting a cleaner operation than before. Hotel industry was screaming, ladies and gentlemen, in Hungary. I must tell you openly that as well, because Marriott, what happened, I repeat an example which I told you before. After a certain while, they realized that after a certain age, employees are not flexible, not adapting to the changes, being very hard to work with. Okay? So, then they were trying to get new employees, young ones, the two requirements being good English skills, good language skills, and no previous experience in the Hungarian hotel and catering industry. The same thing happened in Poland and in other countries. That's not a Hungarian specialty because they are facing with the same problems. And in my opinion, I'm absolutely convinced that unfortunately they were dead right. They were dead right because it was impossible to change the way of thinking, the mentality of stealing and cheating previously happened in the industry of these people. So not true what some newspapers are telling you, that they were employing young people because they had to pay less. This is not true. They were employing young people because it is easier to work with them. They are more flexible, not spoiled like the older ones. I don't have to explain to you why they are more flexible, obviously. Keen to learn. And they are learning what these new companies are teaching to them. Not what they heard from the owner. How can we charge an additional something to the guest account, making sure that he or she is not realizing that, okay? Or how can we get some extra money from the taxi companies or from the cheating nightclub? Okay, so that they were trying very hard with success finally to eliminate this wrong subculture, what we have in the industry. Okay, the industry, I have to mention here, it was not always the situation in Hungary. Okay, so before the war, the industry was based on tip as well, like in Western countries, under market economy circumstances. It was never based on cheating and stealing from the owner and from the guest as well, because both ways. This is obviously reducing the revenue, the income of the company as well. Changes affect, so the industry was highly affected, changed the face of the Hungarian hotel industry for the satisfaction of our guests, for the satisfaction of the guests. Effectiveness improved, profitability improved, year by year, that's true. Changes in staffing level position. Do you have questions? Okay. Changes in staffing level. I have been talking about that. Okay, so staffing level went down, unnecessary job duplications were solved. May I ask you to stop the private conversation? Thank you very much. Duplication of jobs were stopped. Career opportunities are getting better, especially for the young ones. And selection guideline obviously changed, so the employing somebody is not based anymore on connections somewhere, and requirements are, as I said, give you an example, young person willing to learn, with good language skills. And these big companies, Intercontinental, Hilton, Sheraton, Sofitel, they all have a very good developed training program, training career paths. They have a different name, like the guest loyalty programs, but they all mean the same. That we are employing a young person and we are going to teach him or her what we need. Okay? So that's an extreme difference in the selection guidelines as well. Typical positions occupied by expatriates, I told you. Why? Because they proved to be reliable for the company, trustworthy for a long period. This is my answer. How Hungarian managers evaluate foreign professionals? I would say Hungarian managers, only a very few of them able to survive these changes, though being flexible enough to adapt the changes and to adapt for new challenges. So they evaluate them because they realize that these people are trained in many countries. They have a huge international expertise, what we never had, generally speaking, Hungarian managers in the hotel industry. Okay, because visiting for a training in Vienna, that's a different thing. So you have to work in these countries with different people under different circumstances, under different cultural circumstances as well, and only then you are able to go to another country and manage a hotel under different circumstances. Questions? Nothing. How Hungarian managers foreign professionals? Obviously, a general manager being fired after immediately the privatization will have a different opinion. That's why when I said don't interview people being fired at the privatization, because obviously they will have a different opinion. How foreign investors find Hungary a lucrative country to invest in and in our field. First of all, question number 12. How expatriates evaluate Hungarian associates? Now, the picture is not as nice. They don't give interviews in the Hungarian newspapers, I must tell you, usually about this. But let me quote. I had friends, high-ranking leaders of Cora, staying in the Sofitel always, and Campona, staying in the Sofitel always, which is not hotel. May I ask please to stop the private conversation, okay, so I can concentrate on the text. That's not directly hotel industry, but still service industry. Same thing, I would like to show with these two examples that the same problems exist everywhere. What is the biggest problem in Hungary? What do you think? In Cora at the beginning, at Campona. First-hand information from the owners. What do you think? They have many staff problems, first of all because of the language. And this is understandable. Somehow we are not Denmark, not even India, where people will understand English. So that's very interesting. But the big problem, don't forget that the buyers, the customers are mostly Hungarians as well, so they need Hungarian speaking. In these big international companies, stealing industry, they never, these are not young people, never in their life experienced that amount of stealing what is happening here, at the opening and after that, from the staff and from the consumers. This is very shameful. So I know that from them, and we had the same problem. Because when you think about how Marriott doubled the profit, and others as well, I don't want to mention all of them, because they stopped stealing. It is easy. I said very politely that they stopped the mismanagement, or they are better in managing hotels. But in plain text, that means that they stopped cheating and stealing from the owners. Okay? So that's the biggest problem. And privately, they are telling you that. That's not for the newspaper, obviously, because they don't want to create an even worse atmosphere. But that was their biggest problem. Then they had a problem, saying that the Hungarian, the same thing happened in the hotel as well. Hungarians are always getting an order. Because we are asking politely, but there's still an order. Okay? And they say, always why? Not looking for a solution, how to solve that, how to do that, but they are always asking explanation, which was very unusual for them. Why do we have to do this way? Why do we have to do that way? Each time to tell them, because earlier you were doing it not in a way we are requesting. Okay, so they were not flexible at all. I don't mind personally if people are asking questions to make things clear, obviously, but to face the problem that each time you have to go into an explanation finally, telling them that what you were doing here, it was wrong, or it was not the best way to perform or conduct a business. So that's the problem with it. Okay? So nobody told them. So those were the biggest problems of the foreigners. And not only stealing, but lying as well. So they were figuring out that people having, for example, a paper of a language examination, they couldn't speak actually the language. because earlier it was enough. You showed the document, it was accepted. But now, with the American or with the French or with the Germans or international management, you can't do that. You can't do that. And many people in the industry, leaders as well, they were able on a certain level to communicate. But to win a discussion or take part in a conversation, it was already too much for them. Hungarian managers differently expatriates. Why foreign investors find Hungary a lucrative country to invest in on our field? Ladies and gentlemen, as always, they can create a higher return on investment because of many things. One thing is that the workforce, labor, is still cheaper than invested in Europe. Very true. But if the country, the capital, or it's not attracting foreigners, they wouldn't invest. So obviously they all knew that we are going to be a member of the European Union. We had to apply the regulations of the European Union, so it will be a safe country in many ways. So they were sure, they were convinced that it is a good investment to invest in Hungary because the tourism has obviously a bright future. The major difference, as I see it again, that before, if we made in Hungary any investment, it was taxpayer money always. Okay? Your parents and my tax went to fantastic investment to, in Miskolc, to have mine workers from Poland to spend their holiday there. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention so I can concentrate on what I would like to tell you. Thank you very much. Lengyel szakszervezeti beutaltak, nyaraltak a Juno-ba, Miskolcon gyerekek, állami pénzzel. And they built the Juno, that's only one example. There are many. They built the Juno on your parents and my money. So it was a wrong investment. And we had many wrong investments during the non-market economy system in Hungary. All taxpayers' money. So never making a return of the investment, never making a profit for the state, for us. Okay, so so the state, the government at that time was playing with the citizens' money, badly, mismanaging it. But now the main difference is that these people are investing their own money. And that's an extreme difference. Okay, so when this business is going on well for Marriott, Sofitel or Four Seasons, whatever, I say I'm glad if they are doing well. But if they are not doing well, then I am not hurt. I'm not very much worried about that because they are risking their own money, not mine. You see, this is an extreme difference. When these companies, many of them, under non-market economy circumstances, were losing money, the money was money in a way of a country, taxpayers' money. But now, these investments, if they are winners, that's fine with me. But if they are not winning in the competition, or not good with the competition, they are playing with their own money, not risking the Hungarian citizens' money. And this is an extreme difference which I would like to point out definitely. Okay, so the investment is lucrative because costs are relatively still cheaper in many ways, not only the labor, but in many other ways as well. Financial, economical, and tax and other environmental changes during this period. There are many, ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, financial changes. You know that very well that in Hungary in 89 the personal income tax has been introduced only in 89. It reduced immediately everybody's wages about with 50%. That was a tremendous instrument. I wouldn't say unnecessary, obviously, because everywhere people are paying taxes, and that's the basis of a modern society and a civilized country. but it was affecting everybody very hard, hitting. So taxes and VAT being introduced only at the end of the 80s in Hungary. So practically that's part of these changes. For the hotel industry and for the hotel and catering industry, the extreme environmental changes were that state subsidies, állami támogatások, state subsidies were so slowly disappearing, not from one year to the other, slowly. We still have, in many fields in Hungary and in other countries as well, state subsidies, but not to that extent what we had before. So it was affecting hotels highly. Hotels, as I said probably earlier, were paying in Hungary only 1/10 of the real cost, a fraction of the real cost for heating, gas, electricity, water, and many other things. Even the food production was heavily subsidized. Hotels using food heavily subsidized by us again. Don't forget that all these subsidies, these are taxpayers' money, our money, even now. Okay, so it was heavily subsidized. So practically when Mr. Rothschild was coming into Hungary in the 80s, he was paying only for half of the pig salami, other half was state subsidy. I'm not joking. People, I don't know if you heard about it, people were coming into Hungary from the whole neighboring countries buying food and meat in Hungary. And bringing it out. It is still happening in the other way around. So Hungarians in the Austrian borders, they are going to Austria to buy food because it's cheaper there, which is strange enough. But so with these state subsidies, subsidizing an industry which should make profit, which should make extreme profit. As I told you, a good 4 or 5-star hotel has in a year over 50% profit. Should have 50% profit. Just to remind you what the big Hungarian companies had here in the early 90s. I give you precise data about Hungar hotels, about Pannonia, about Danubius. At the first half of the 90s, they were having 6% profit. 6% profit. The companies. Pannonia, Hungar hotels, Danubius. Not me, but Mr. Bokros said in 94, a financial international expert, he said in 94 that a company, when we have 30% inflation at the beginning of the 90s in the country, a company making 6% profit is making 24% loss. I just quote what Mr. Bokros said. So this is about the Hungarian monkey business, the financial results in the hotel industry, which is extremely profitable all over the world. So that was a big environmental change. The costs, they're going up, obviously, because all these state subsidies, specifically from the energy field, water, or fee for canalization or rubbish collection has been introduced for the hotels as well in the 90s. They never had that earlier. Water was free of charge for the hotels as well. Canalization was free of charge for the hotels. So operation was getting much more expensive. Okay. Yes, just to avoid that mistake, I wrote down here, during your project, please concentrate only on commercial business-like operations, not on charity organizations, social welfare, company holiday resorts, because some students made the mistake interviewing former SOT hotels. So that's a different thing. That's a holiday resort and nothing to do with business. Okay, so leave that out. So we are dealing only with commercial establishments. Okay, any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Question 14. Yes.
Question 14. How many of you want to open? Yes. It is stopped a little bit. Thank you very much. At least one question I have. Hurrah. How many you hotel opening? There is one Italian hotel, you know that, going to open we had formerly the New York Cafe, or the New York restaurant. That's a new hotel opening in the near future. Absolutely recent news that on the Vörösmarty Square, a top brand luxurious hotel is going to open on the Vörösmarty. Have you heard that? Okay, Euro Center or something like that will be the name. That is an interesting experience. Intercontinental is planning a Crown Plaza. Intercontinental having different brands. Intercontinental 5-star, Forum 4-star, Crown Plaza, still the same company. It is a 3 or 4-star. So they are planning to build a big hotel, a 3-4-star hotel, Crown Plaza. Then the Ballet Institute, some of you heard about that. They are planning for a long time, you know. Hungarians are in there, you know, that's why it takes time. I would say depends on the market. If we apply quickly the regulations of the European Union, then definitely there will be more tourists to come. Definitely. More buying power, that's one thing. With the internet, we will have much more direct reservation to the hotel. That will improve tourism everywhere, making it more convenient and better priced for the foreigners, for our visitors. Then the third thing, we need an improvement definitely, language-wise, you know, as well in the industry and everywhere else. We should write, before the war, I don't know if you are aware of that, everything which was important for a person in the town was written out in 4 different languages. Everything before the war in Hungary. Look it now. You see? So, unfortunately, in this field, we were going back. Very much so. Not only this. But, so we need, if we would like to attract foreigners, we have to do more. In my priorities, first we have to eliminate, kill the culture of stealing the Robin Hood mentality, because this is absolutely wrong. Ugye? In Hungarian, fejűs tehérnek nézik a külföldi. So, unless we could stop that, tourism wouldn't improve. So we have to stop that, because the competition around us as well, the same area, the same location, will improve. That's one thing, and I think that for the moment, because of the threat of the war in North Korea, we have an unsolved situation, ladies and gentlemen, politically in Syria, in Persia, and in North Korea. I think when all these, or at least the 2 near to us, will be solved, I hope in a short time, then the tourism will grow. So unless the United States can eliminate the threat against the airlines and terrorist attacks, you know, unless they can eliminate that threat, I don't think that a big improvement is going on. On one field, on the the low-price airlines, those will bring in Europe and elsewhere as well, tourists, students as well, never seen in other countries before. Because that makes travel possible, mass tourism, like it happened after the Second World War, when with the planes, with the travel, you know, and financially Europe is being better, Western Europe, better off, travel was made possible for many people. No, it was not possible for them before the war. So something similar will happen, not in the immediate future, but in the future as well, with the low-cost airlines. If, I say it again, no major war or terrorist attack again affecting tourism for years. Any other question?